Welcome. This is Dr. R. Meenakshi. I am an assistant professor of economics in Nirmala College for Women. In statistics, the sampling method is the process of studying the population by gathering an information and analyzing that data. It is the basis of data where the sample space is enormous. So, let us discuss about the types of sampling. So, what is sampling? When doing a research study, we should consider the sample to be representative to the target population as much as possible, with the least possible error and without substitution or incompleteness. And when we are studying about the sample, we have to know about the population and research population. Population refers to the entire group or set of individuals or elements that share a common characteristics, while the research population represents a specific subgroup within the population that is the main focus of the study or analysis. We have to know about the difference of population and sample. Population, in a simple words, we can say that it is a measurable in a qualitative way, is called as a parameter. And on other hand, the sample is a measurable quality but in a statistic. The population is a complete set, but the sample is a subset of population. Reports of population are a true representation of opinion, but on other hand, sample reports may give the margin of error, and the population contains all members of a specified group, but in a sample, the subset that represents the entire population. There are several different sampling techniques, and they can be subdivided into two groups. So, that techniques are probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So what is probability sampling method? So it is nothing but it utilizes some form of random selection. So all the eligible individuals have a chance of selecting the sample from the whole sample space, and it is a more time consuming and expensive than the non-probability sampling. And the benefit of using this probability sampling is that it guarantees the sample that should be the representative of the population. And furthermore, the probability sampling has been classified into simple random sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, stratified sampling. So let us learn one by one in a probability sampling. So first method of probability sampling is simple random method. In simple random sampling technique, every item in the population has an equal and likely chance of being selected in the sample, and the item selection entirely depends on the chance. So this method is also known as a method of chance selection, and moreover the sample size is large and the item is chosen randomly, so it is also known as a representative sampling. So when we take an example, suppose we want to select a simple random sample of 200 students from a school, and here we can assign a number to every student in the school database from 1 to 500, and by using the random number generator to select a sample of 200 members. So here we can randomly pick a persons as a individuals. So next method of sampling is systematic sampling. In the systematic sampling method, the items are selected from the target population by selecting the random selection point and selecting the other methods after fixed sample interval, and it is calculated by dividing the total population size by the desired population size. So when we take another example, suppose the names of 300 students of a school are sorted in the reverse alphabetical order. To select a sample in a systematic sampling method, we have to choose sum of 15 students by randomly selecting a starting number, say 5. From number 5 onwards, we'll select every 15th person from the sorted list. Finally, we can end up with a sample of some students. So likewise, we can pick up some systematic manner. Next is stratified sampling. In this method of sampling, the total population is divided into smaller groups to complete the sampling process. The small group is formed based on a few characteristics in the population. After separating the population into a smaller group, the statisticians randomly select the sample. So here also I will give one example. There are 3 bags. Okay, just think over. There are 3 bags like A, B, C, each with different balls. And bag A has 50 balls, bag B has 100 balls, and bag C has 200 balls. So here we have to choose a sample of balls from each bag proportionally. Suppose 5 balls from bag A, 10 balls from bag B, and 20 balls from bag C. So likewise we have to stratify the each groups and we have to pick up the individuals. So next is a cluster sampling. This method of cluster is nothing but a group of people that are formed from the population set. The group has a similar significantly characteristics and also they have an equal chance of being a part of the sample. So this method uses simple sampling for the cluster population. So here the people will be divided into groups, and from that group we will pick up with some random method. So I will give another example for this. An educational institution has 10 branches across the country with almost number of students. If we want to collect some data regarding the facilities and other things, we cannot travel to every unit to collect the required data. Hence, we can use random sampling to select 3 or 4 branches as clusters. All these 4 methods is a better manner we can have a sample by using different techniques. So next we are going to learn about non-probability sampling. So far we have learned about probability sampling, and in that we have discussed 4 points: simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, cluster sampling and stratified sampling with the examples. Now we are moving to the non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling is a technique in which the researcher selects the sample based on the subjective judgment rather than the random selection. So in this method, not all the members of the population have a chance to participate in the study. Furthermore, this non-probability sampling is also classified into different types like snowball sampling method, quota sampling method, convenience sampling method, judgmental or purposive sampling method. So let us learn one by one. So first is convenience sampling. So most of the researchers will prefer this convenience sampling. These samplings are selected from the population directly because they are conveniently available for the researcher. The samples are easy to select and the researchers did not choose the sample that outlines the entire population. And I will give an example for this also. So in researching customer support services in a particular region, and we ask your few customers to complete a survey on the products after the purchase. So this is a convenient way to collect the data. Still, as we only surveyed customers taking the same product, at the same time, the sample is not a representative of all the customers in that area. But for our convenience, we are taking the survey. Okay. So next is about quota sampling. Quota sampling method is also like we will classify the individuals with the specific traits or qualities. So the researcher chooses the sample subsets that bring the useful collection of data that generalizes the entire population. So from the each group, he or she, the researcher will pick the person as a quota sampling. So next method is purposive or judgmental sampling. In this method of sampling, the samples are selected only based on the researcher's knowledge. As their knowledge is instrumental in creating the samples, they are the chances of obtaining a highly accurate answers with a minimum marginal error. So it is also known as a judgmental sampling or authoritative sampling. So I will give one example like so if a person, the researcher is willing to collect the data from the entrepreneurs. So the researchers can pick out this judgmental sampling like picking up the right person who is an entrepreneur in the entire population. So here will be a very minimum chances of marginal error, right? So next we are moving the snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is also known as it's a chain referral sampling technique. In this method, the samples have a traits that are difficult to find. So each identified member of the population is asked to find the other sampling units. So those sampling units also belong to the same targeted population. So there is also one more example. So if a person, a psychologist researcher is doing a research on the transgenders. So we cannot easily collect the informations of the transgender because the transgenders will live in all over the places. So the picking up of the sample is very difficult. But through the snowball sampling method, what we can do is we can approach one transgender and we can ask them to refer the another person who is as a transgender. So likewise, we can ask one person like a referrer. We can do this sampling method. So these are the reference books. Thanks for watching. I hope you have learned about the types of sampling